Hello, this video is going to help you in building tenders, hopefully. First thing we're going to want to do is go to SAP login screen. We'll double click on the PRD file, and that will bring up this screen. We'll put in our username and our password, and that will bring up the main screen. Now, this is where we put in all the codes for anything we want to do. Building tenders in particular is going to be VT01N. Click enter. Then we have some options here. The transportation planning point will always be PPC. Shipment type will always be 0001, individual shipment road. And the variant will depend on what plant you're planning for. Lufkin has a variant, Nacogdoches has a variant, all the plants have their own variant. For demonstration purposes, we're just going to show Lufkin and enter. Now we'll come back to this screen, but once we get to this screen, we're going to hit deliveries. And what that does is it pulls up all the orders that sales has keyed in for us to deliver. So this screen comes up and it says, okay, are you wanting to see all the shipments for LU01? All these, the dates and LU01, that was filled in by putting Lufkin as the variant. So yes, we want to look at Lufkin, and we're looking from this time period to this time period, and we click execute. So if you notice down here, this bottom screen is called our workbench. And our workbench has several orders here, as we see. If we want to look for the earliest ones, we can sort in ascending or descending order, or the ones that are the farthest away, date-wise to ship. I always like to sort in ascending order by date, but you can also sort by customer, 828 number. You can sort by any of them just by clicking on that and then clicking on the sort button. Let's look up here. If you notice the $sign 0001, it's what I like to call a shell. A shell is basically a tender that has not been filled with an order yet. So let me show you what I mean. So let's say that we wanted to tender two of these, the Kroger and the Kroger Keller and the Kroger Houston. We have one order available, or one shell available. We can now click this button, a new shipment, and that brings another shell. So we can take this Kroger Keller and move it, and it fills that shell with an order. Same thing with this Kroger Houston. Now, shell can also be filled with more than one order. Let's say that Kroger Keller, we also wanted to put another Kroger Keller in. We can do that. So this is one individual truck. It hasn't been given a tender number yet because we haven't put in the details yet and actually planned it and saved it. But we're grouping orders together that we want to put together. Now let's say that this on truck number 2, let's say that we wanted to have it go from Houston and then continue on to Dallas. So we take Kroger Keller and move it there. Now these are in the order that they'll go. So just imagine it starts in Lufkin, it then goes to Houston, and then on to Keller. All right, so we filled those shells. Just doing a quick look, we'll notice the weight for shell number 1 is 34,000 pounds. Shell number 2 is well below max, 13,000. The weight limit's going to be around 40,000. The delivery cases will want to stay under 1,000, although these Kroger loads, the product is smaller, so we can often go up to 1100 or 1300 before we start having problems. So both of these are within parameters. Let's double click here. And what we're doing now is we're actually going into the orders or the tenders and putting in details. So even though we filled these shelves with orders, if we notice, there's no details about when we want it to pick up or anything else. That's because we haven't planned it. Now, planning is actually us telling the computer, okay, I put in all the times and I agree with all the times that I put in, and I want to go ahead and save this order. So right now, we haven't put in any times. We don't have any times. So what we'll do is we'll click Planning. We'll see it's going from Lufkin to Keller. Go ahead and click Continue. If you notice, it's now populated with information that was saved from sales. Now, sales just puts in very generic times. They say, okay, we want it to leave on the, or we want it to produce on the 13th and deliver on the 14th. So that just gives us a general idea of when it's going to leave. However, we need to be more specific when we tender this to the carriers. So how we do that is we go into the Stages tab. And when we pull it over here, the Stages tab, we'll go back. This is all the preset information that sales has put in. It's going from Lufkin to Keller. The mileage is there. It's a direct leg. Now if we scroll over here, here's the times. This is where we update it to what we want. The 13th is going to be produced, so it won't actually be ready until the morning of the 14th. So on these are the time that we want the truck to come and pick up the load on a drop trailer is on the 14th. We want it at 5 a.m. And they normally get appointments around 11 o'clock. So that gives them 6 hours to get to Dallas, which is approximately a 3.5-hour drive. So we give them a little, 3.5 to 4. So we'll give them a little bit of a buffer zone. Now notice when we go back to deadline, the times haven't updated. We can make all the changes we want in any of these tabs, but remember, nothing is set in stone unless we plan it. So watch what happens whenever I unclick Planning. The times that I just put in update. And then when I replan it, we'll go over this execute leg determination in a minute, but whenever I replan it, that's saying, yes, I agree with that. And seal it up. If I were to click save right now, that's the details that I would have. So that's the Stage tab. The Text tab is where we put instructions. We'll want to go down to Sender's Instructions. It's not going to look any different when we click here, but just make sure it's highlighted. And then we can type in whatever note we want. Most of the time we use this for appointments or whatever, maybe like a temperature requirement or something. And when we save it, that's going to be saved to the file and end up on the comment section of the tender. Distance and duration is going to show you the mileage. That comes in very handy. The tender tab is where it shows what the status is. So right now, we haven't even saved it, so it's not offered to a forwarding agent or a carrier. If we need to cancel, we'll do it from here. If we need to change it in any way, we'll come here and do that. We'll get to that later, though. Additional data is basically where we put the transportation division. Now, I'll explain more about this later, but 99% of what we ship is going to be 01NP, which means fresh, or 01 is fresh, and then NP is non-pallet. What that means is when the product comes out of the plant, it is fresh. And fresh in the chicken world can be down to, I want to say like 15 or 20 degrees. It might sound frozen in our world, but chicken is considered fresh down to that point. Frozen is loads that go at -10 and is actually, like the stuff that you buy in the freezers at the store. So that's where we put this in. Now let's say that we were shipping to a freezer. We would change this to 02NP. And you do have several freezers from in your that you ship to. So we will be changing that a lot, but we'll explain a little bit more of that later. For now, we'll go ahead and do 01NP. So now I've made all the changes. I've unplanned, I've replanned. My times look right. I have a transportation division code in. I put notes that I want in. So that one's done. Now, instead of hitting save right now, if I hit save, it will make this tender. However, it will also make this tender, which I haven't put any details in. So before we do that, we're going to go ahead and do this second one. Now remember, this is the one with 2 stops. So watch what happens whenever I click planning. It now tells me, okay, the truck's going to start in Lufkin, it's going to go to Houston, and then it's going to end in Keller. So that's what we want it to do. For stages, if we remember, it was supposed to start on the 13th and go to the 14th. There's a bug in the system where actually it starts on the 13th, and when you put more than one together, sometimes it just has them delivering on the same day that they produce. We'll want to fix that. So let's just assume that this is going to go out on the 13th at 23:59 or midnight, and we want it to deliver on the 14th at 0500. It takes approximately 2.5 hours. So 5 hours would give them plenty of time to get to Houston. I normally do about 4 hours. So this would give them just a little bit more time. So notice this is the first leg to Houston. However, this next leg, we now need to change the time to the next day. And let's just assume that we were going to have him do that, take his break. Now he might be able to go to Houston all in one, Houston and Dallas all at one time, but this is just for example purposes. We're going to have him take his break and then get back on the road at 23:59, and then deliver the following day, the 15th, at 6 a.m. So again, has not updated because I have not unplanned and replanned. And execute leg determination. For times when you add a leg to a shipment, what this is doing is saying, okay, I got your plans before. I know that you're going to do 2 legs on this shipment. However, when you replan it and it says execute leg determination, what it's asking you is, have you added a new leg to this shipment? Or have you changed the order of the legs? Because right now, it's calculating the distance going from Lufkin to Houston to Dallas. But let's say that we wanted it to go Lufkin to Houston to Dallas and then on to Oklahoma City. Well, it won't calculate that extra distance to Oklahoma City until we click execute leg determination, and that's what's going to signal it to say, oh, hey, we've added a third leg, and calculate those miles and ask us what times we want for that time. So go ahead and click that. And it's going to say, oh, okay, well, we're still just doing those 2 legs. Click continue. These same tabs, we haven't really done anything else. The text button, we haven't put a text in. We can just go in here and type whatever we want. Tender, it hasn't been tendered yet. And the 01NP is in. All right, so both of our loads are ready. We now go to save. Now notice right here, 2 shipments have been saved, and the numbers are 5171692, 5171693. This little space right here is going to be kind of a message center. Anytime you create a shipment, it'll tell you what the tender numbers are. If you create an event, which we'll go over later, it'll tell you what the event numbers are. If you try to save something and you get an error message, check down here at the left-hand side of the screen, because a lot of times it'll tell you what the error is. All right, so that is creating the tender. We'll come back later and show you how to tender it.